Have you ever been sitting at home and thought to yourself, I want to feel awful today? Well, I have the genre for you, psychological thriller. Because a good one will have you questioning what it means to be alive for the rest of the day. My name is Filtzy, and I looked into the abyss and saw myself looking back. I See You is the movie of the day, and it is one of my favourite movies because it unsettles me to the point of collapse. Why? Let's get into that. So the movie starts in a peaceful little neighbourhood, and we see a nice boy riding his bike, until... whoops. Something knocked him off. Now, the introduction to any movie, but especially horror movies, is the most important part of the film. It grabs your attention and sets the tone for the entire film, and this does exactly that. It shows the audience a normal world and life which is abruptly knocked into chaos and violence, which is a major theme in the film. Past this, we see our main location, and the sound design is immaculate. It's this good for the entirety of the film. And if I showed you every single bit of expert sound, I'd just be uploading the entire movie. And I've been told copyright lawyers don't like when I do that. So I'll have to settle for just this example. The sound design is brilliant at setting the mood while having not much of substance happening. Not in a way where it's tricking your feelings, but where it creates attention organically through its connection to the visuals. We're then introduced to the main family and they are dysfunctional. And that dysfunction is played realistically to an uncomfortable degree. See, the mum cheated, and quite understandably her son's angry at her. She tries to buy back his love in a very surface level way with pancake dinners and cash, trying to cover up their family's internal bleeding with a plaster. On the other hand, the dad also wants the son to forgive her, and he approaches it in a much more genuine way. But at the same time, he harbours deep resentment and anger towards her. With these character dynamics, every single interaction between them oozes tension, to the point where you feel like everything's going to explode in the most minor interactions. The movie also spends a lot of its time following the dad while he's at his work, where he's cased with the disappearance of the kid from the start. We find out this isn't the first child kidnapping in the area, where 6 young boys were found buried with a green pocket knife as a calling card. But the guy's already been caught, a convicted pedophile who's been locked away ever since, so it's assumed it's a copycat. They visit the only surviving victim, now an adult. He's completely isolated himself in a shed. We see his face is scarred and burned from self-inflicted wounds, and he has become almost completely non-verbal, only able to scream no upon seeing the detectives. This is the setup of a brilliant mystery. And if this movie just wanted to be a detective drama based around this storyline, it could. We even hear the recordings from when this victim was younger, talking about how he was locked in a magic house which disappears, toting that the detectives will never find it. Now, parallel to all of this, there's another plotline set in the house, as the family begin to experience strange occurrences. Repairmen reference a daughter who doesn't exist, photos go missing, televisions playing news stories about the missing children turn themselves on and off, the dad pisses the bed. The best thing about this part of the film is how understated it all is. It's all spread out alongside the police plotline and nothing too insane happens. Just an underlying feeling of dread knowing something isn't right, but having no clue what's causing it. This is the kind of fear that most horror misses. The horror of knowing something's wrong, but not quite knowing what. You're afraid because you don't understand. Way too often, I'll watch a horror movie and they'll bring out a spreadsheet explaining what I'm supposed to be scared of and why. I'm an adult and I can cut the crust off my sandwich by myself. The biggest event of this early part of the movie is the dad getting locked in the closet, yelling out for his son to help him, but he's ignored. But he can see a figure through the cracks, a figure that doesn't respond. He only gets out when his wife lets him out and she tells him the son isn't around. One of my favourite moments is the mother hearing voices at night. They sound like they're referring to her as she walks along, but she discovers the worst horror a mother can find. Her son plays Overwatch. Back to family drama. The mother's mistress, Mr. cheating partner, comes to the house, and while they talk, someone throws a pot off the roof onto his head. She takes him down to the garage to check his wounds, but then she gets a call from his phone. The call plays music, which she can hear inside the house above her. When she checks on it, she runs into her son, who she promised to take to school, and to keep the peace she does, while slyly trying to get a confession from him for while they're gone, Cheetah gets smacked upside the head. We don't see who does it, and they cut away from the violence. The movie lets your imagination do a lot of work for it, which I appreciate. Right after this, we get more cop stuff. Dad thinks the kidnapper knew the kid and got him to stop the bike that way, but Spitsky finds the rope trap we saw stop him in the intro. But at the same time, the mum finds her boyfriend's body and has to call her husband to help. They have this amazingly written exchange where they blame the son but decide to hide the body to keep him out of prison. One of the best things here is that all of the bad choices that the mother made, like not taking him to hospital right away, are explained realistically. We understand why she would make these mistakes. No more horror protagonists who've been lobotomized. Are you ready for the best scare in horror history? While their son is gaming, he gets a message. Do you know what frogging is? He Googles it, finding that frogging is when people secretly live in strangers' houses, and we get a camera angle through the door, like we're watching him, and we see a shadow against the frame. As he responds to the message, we see a figure in that same frog mask from earlier open the door behind him. And then it cuts away. There's no payoff, no release. That awful, anxious energy has no place to go, and it just festers as you wonder what happened. We only get that payoff when the parents return and find him unconscious, tied up in the bath, with that same knife calling card. Now this scene is so graphic and visceral, not because it has a lot of gore, but because it feels real. It feels like we're looking into a real crime scene. The dad searches through the house, gun in hand, finding creepy serial killer cutouts of the family. We see the masked man in the background with an axe, and he finally approaches and swings, and it cuts away. Bet you thought that was the payoff, huh? Now we get a found footage style recording of two froggers sneaking to the house at the same time. This is an insane twist on things. A time jump going all the way back to before the movie started, introducing two new characters, Alec and Mindy. And from here, we get a replay of every event in the house so far, discovering the reason for every weird occurrence. You hear dialogue from previous scenes to show you where you are in the movie. You see Mindy letting in the repairman. They'll hide from the family during some of the most important scenes in the same room. And despite this being the movie explaining everything, it remains disturbing, because Alec is a creep. He leaves Mindy in her sleep to go record the family in bed. He even drugs her so he has more time. He takes a sick pleasure in everything he does. He was staring through the crack at the dad locked in the closet. He pisses on him while he sleeps to make it look like he wet the bed. And the whole time his demeanour is sickening. When Mindy talks to him about the missing kids, he's completely apathetic. It really seems like he was the kidnapper. Mystery solved, right? Well, Mindy's revealed to be hiding in the garage while the cheater was down there, and she watches him get hit, not by Alec, but by the dad. This puts all his actions into context. Why he was so quick to blame the son and hide the body, it was his crime to cover up. And we see Mindy's reaction as they blamed the son, and she actually cries. I'm going to pause for a minute here to talk about performances, because every single one is fantastic all throughout. Now, after the dad and the mum leave to hide the body, Mindy catches Alec tying up the son and is understandably horrified and goes to call the police. In trying to stop her, Alec knocks her out, but he clearly regrets it. He's not a complete sociopath. He loads her into the car where the dad put the murder weapon from before, and he's about to steal it and get away. But the dad comes back and Alec hides. The dad moves from one car to the other, unaware that Mindy is right in the back, and when she wakes up, she finds the shirt of the boy who got kidnapped from the intro. This completely blew me away the first time I saw it, and I did not see it coming. You rethink everything the dad does in the movie, especially his detective work, where he's giving incorrect theories to knock them off his trail, and the scene with the past victim, he wasn't screaming at Detective Spitsky, he was screaming at the dad. Now, as soon as she's left alone, Mindy immediately calls the police because she's not an idiot. She gets cut off, but then she finds a trailer. This is the disappearing house. It disappears because it moves. They'll never find it because it moves. I can't explain enough how good of a twist this is, because everything is pointing at it. But it's done in a way that most people would never see it coming, because they have another explanation each time. Detective movies where the killer's actually the protagonist aren't uncommon, but usually they're written in a way where it's easy to see coming, or it's completely out of left field with zero previous evidence. Good twists are about finding that balance. Now, as she investigates, I was literally shaking in fear and anticipation, even on my second watch. She finds the kids alive, and they tell her that he's coming to kill them, digging their graves as they speak. Just after, we see him approach from behind before suffocating Mindy. Being able to see the scare sounds bad, but it really works here because it makes you feel helpless. You know what's coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. He also finds the recordings they made in his house, so he takes her and returns to the house to murder and frame them both, as he immediately does with Mindy, making her stand up before shooting her, and then the wall to fake a struggle. It's really sickening how smart this guy is, because you realise how easy it would be for him to just get away with it. The shots from just before the time jump are now recontextualised. With the exact same footage, it feels completely different because now you're rooting for Alec. And at the moment it was cut off before, we see them fight for a while, before Alec holds him at gunpoint. And even here, the dad taunts him, telling him he'll never get away with killing a cop. But at the moment when he realises Alec isn't going to back down, we get this great moment.
When I was a little boy, I didn't give a fuck.
I am so sick of awful, disgusting characters being excused with their trauma, so it's really satisfying to have this movie say no. Right after the shot, police break in, and Alec gets shot. He bleeds on the ground, and he recognises Spitsky. We see some shots of previous kidnappings, seeing one of the kids having a Yoshi Pez, the same one that Alec eats from throughout the film. The kids are found, traditional happy ending, right? Well, no. It's clear that every character is traumatized by the events so far. Everyone is worse off, and there's no changing that. It makes that awful feeling stay with you even after the film ends, because you know that nothing can make this better. And that's the goal, right? Horror that lasts. This is one of the most intelligently written and well-made movies I have ever seen, and there's so much more I couldn't cover. Please watch it. It's on Netflix in the UK, and it's even better once you know the twists because the signs are everywhere. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a better day than me.